Okay, so when you go for a DevOps learning, there are too many tools that you need to learn. Don't get overwhelmed by it. Just have a brief look at of it. Go to places like YouTube, which gives you a 5 minutes brief and 5 minutes demo of some of these tools. You get a basic idea of what is this, what problem does this tool solve, and then connect the dots. Or a period of time, you will be able to understand. Okay, this tool is meant for this. This tool is meant for this. These 3 or 4 different tools are competitive tools to each other because they all almost solve the same problem, and all that you will gain over a period of time. Okay. Um, yeah, so this is where you need to use YouTube very judicially. I mean, intelligently. Don't get carried away with so many things that YouTube keep coming and prompting you based on your behavior. What are the things that you are searching? But stay focused. It's a lot easier said than done. And okay, the deployment models are changing in DevOps. So earlier, probably around a year ago, around 20 years ago or something, usually EXE is the form in which it used to run. Okay, in the Unix world, and there are .so files and shared object files are available, and a major EXE used to run, which is compatible with that particular platform or particular OS, right? And then we have Java. In the Java world, we have jars. Jars run on top of the Java runtime. Now the world is changing mostly towards the containers. Okay, of whatever that you need, the functionality that you need. Not that entire world is moved on to the containers. Still, they are in the initial stages of it, but the packaging is happening in the containers, and containers are getting hosted on the container orchestration engines. So this is how the change has been happening. But still, jars, etc., are also equally popular. Containers, I think, are still relatively new. They have been around for 5 years, but not much of an adoption yet. Infrastructure as a code. So this is an important concept that you need to be aware. Okay, um, when you have some cloud infrastructure, when you need to replicate that same set of infrastructure across multiple environments. Let's say I need to create a development environment for my client, and a test environment, and another system testing or integration testing environment, and a production environment, etc., etc. Then I can't keep creating these things, multiple environments manually. I should have a code that when I run it creates an infrastructure. I'll show you how that is. In a very simple world, look at this file. This is an infrastructure as a code. For those of you who are already in the cloud course, maybe you can relate to it. But so this is just a 7-line code or something like that. This will spin an EC2 instance for me in a particular availability zone with an image ID that I have already created, and this contains some of the HTTPD Apache HTTPD server with some files that I already have it on it. All it takes me is probably like a couple of minutes for me to run on multiple environments, and I'll have one environment get created. I'll show them as part of the demo that I'm discussing. So this is very simple, and probably a POC level of demo. But the practical industry use cases are a lot more complex, but this is good enough for you to understand what it means by infrastructure as a code. And I'll show them when it comes to demo. I'll go back to the Q&A just a second. What Puppet is used for? Okay, so Puppet, Ansible, and Chef are kind of similar things. What they are used for is, let's say you have an infrastructure as a code, the file that I have shown you, something like this, check into Git. And we want this one to be spread across, let's say this infrastructure as a code, assuming I am spinning up, I have 10 Linux servers or 100 Linux servers, and I have let's say Apache Tomcat to be run on 10 Linux servers, right? let's say that is my requirement. I can log in into each of them and install an Apache server or upgrade an Apache server if it is already installed. It doesn't work that way. The way we do is check this infrastructure as a code somewhere in a source code repository, and the Puppet or Ansible, based on push or pull model that you need, it replicates the moment the server comes up, it pulls a copy of that infrastructure, the code instructions to those servers, and do as per that instructions in each of these nodes. It's basically a from one server, it replicates that infrastructure across so many nodes. So that's broadly the use case. This is the same thing mostly. I'm not saying exact equal to, but mostly this is what both Ansible and Puppet do. But they have different models of it. Ansible is like a little more contemporary and modern. It works more on the push base rather than the pull base, and those are different discussions. But and I hope I answered your question. The Puppet one. Puppet just replicates the code across so many servers based on what you need. And if you are doing it in a college in a simple POC, you don't necessarily need to use Puppet. You can just use a shell for loop, and that will do. Say okay, these are all my servers. These are all the different IPs. For each of that IP in a loop, you log into it and do that installation instructions, and that come out of it. If you have just 4 or 5 servers or something, but if something fails in between, your flow gets stopped. Right? But for a normal case, a shell, a for loop in the shell is good enough. But for the industry, we need like much more robust and replicatable solutions. So that's what Puppet is for. Okay, so these are so there is a concept of immutable infrastructure. It's not very new, but the way it gets used is you better to be familiar with this word. Containers are work this way that let's say you package some container, and after that your code is updated. There is no way you can update the container. Okay, you need to destroy that container and get a new container image from your container repository. Okay, so in another sense, there is nothing like a repair or fixing it. You destroy the old one and get it. Your infrastructure, which here in this case, the container is not updatable. It is immutable, right? It's an immutable. That's the meaning of immutable infrastructure. It has a lot of advantages. The moment you go and update it, chances are that you may update in some places, but not in other places. Your update may work effectively in some places, but not in other places, and so on. So that is the concept behind it. These are all some of the things that in DevOps which not normally get covered. Okay, so this is SSL certificates, SSO, and SSO integrations are some of the super important and super critical stuff, which is most technologists don't learn enough. Okay. So these are not difficult concepts, but somehow in my experience, I have seen most people do not learn it for some reason or the other. Spend some time how SSL certificate works. It's actually really simple. Okay, the idea of my talk is not to give a training on this, but say that what are the important concepts of the DevOps that will impact DevOps functionality, but in general, anywhere, as long as you are into software field, this is required. So I'll briefly touch them, but SSL certificates are so important. If you have, for example, a web server and you're serving some pages, a website, if you have if you have an SSL certificate to encrypt and authenticate your identity, then You have a certificate on that server, which, with the public key is advertised by that server, then that is HTTPS. Otherwise, it's HTTP. Okay? And so this is, you regularly see HTTPS in most cases. You don't see much of HTTP. Anywhere where you see a HTTP and somebody is asking your credit card information, or for that matter, even your Google ID and password, don't ever use that. Most most sites as of today are already on HTTPS. Very few are not still there. Okay, so this is very less secure. HTTPS is secure, but still there are things that you need to be aware, and many things. Just because HTTPS doesn't mean that you're not in the phishing attacks and other thing, but that's completely different topic. But just be aware, at least you should be comfortable with what is the public key, what is the private key, what's the difference between a key and cert, what is an encryption, and what is a hashing, and all that stuff. I hope these fundamentals are part of your curriculum itself. So SSO is something like a single sign-on. For example, if most of you, I assume that have Google Google ID. The moment you log into a Google ID, quite often when you use one service, another service is, you don't separately need to log in. For example, if you are in a Gmail on one tab and you go to Google Photos on another tab, it is automatically is available. Both are two different applications altogether. But the moment you sign on one of them, it is all the other services are available. But single sign off is different. Okay, most of the solutions provide a single sign on, but not a single sign off. But that is how the users want it also. Right now, there is another use case that something called federated identity. Okay, some of the use cases of this SSO and SSO integrations are, for example, a new site is available. You can't keep registering with each site or each app. Okay, they will take either your Google ID or your Facebook ID, etc., as your identity validation, and then they will provide you their services. Right? They don't maintain separate identity store. They won't let you enter a separate ID and password. Right? That's called SSO integration. So they keep your ID in their databases once you log in, but they don't keep your password. As long as Google validates, the moment you come through the Google identity, as long as Google validates you are the right user, they will allow their services, because you have your account is linked with a particular Google ID, right? So is with Azure IDP or other things like Okta IDP and so on, right? You have to have one identity somewhere, and then many service providers don't maintain their own identity store. And when you are in the security world, or I mean, even in the DevOps world, your customers expect that, I log in into your application, but I am on my enterprise SSO. Don't expect me to come log in into your product once again. I don't want to do that. That's what most customers say. And if think of from yourself also that, if you have to keep signing in for each of the mobile applications, you don't use so many mobile applications. Most of your mobile applications are, either one-time signing or based on an OTP, or authenticated with your Google ID or Facebook ID or something like that. Most of them, they don't maintain the credential store, and that's the use case of SSO integration. It's nearly impossible for you to remember so much of a password grammar, so many IDs, and so etc. So it's a good solution, but it has its limitations. Right? And one of the major things that comes across when you're in DevOps domain is the security vulnerability scan. Let's say there is a particular solution which is hosted on a particular Linux version, and then suddenly there is some virus came on that particular version of some of the some of the packages which are worked on it, and then that package needs to be updated because it's found to be vulnerable, and so on. So security vulnerabilities are something which is an important topic as part of the DevOps. But basically, usually it's the DevOps professional who will have such address and then ask some of their operations team to execute. They'll give the instructions to the operations, go ahead and execute this, it will resolve this. I'm going back to the question and answers. Yeah, so I think this is also, I wanted to answer at the beginning of itself, but I'm not, I pressed some other button. So being a student, question is, being a student, it's very important for us to answer AWS Cloud DevOps relationship, as it is one of the core skills of the industry. Waiting for the Q&A session today. Yeah, I think this is, we are already discussing this, and the demos will clarify some of this stuff. Dr. Jayashree, are we, just to check, are we in sync?
Yes,
because
sir.
there is no audio responses from students. So I thought I'll check in between, so that, I just want to make sure that, I'm audible and people are listening. I would prefer this to be in person in an auditorium or someplace like that. But unfortunately, in the pandemic, this is how we.
As yesterday, I was taking the Q&A part. Like in between, I use it to speak. So today, you are only taking that service as well. So
yeah, sure, no problem. Okay. So thank you. And coming back to this, one of the things that I would encourage all of you is to develop what I call a digital mindset, wherein you should have an agility to try a new product or a new service, which you do already in some of the cases. For example, if a new mobile app comes in, if that is of interest to you, you'll quickly go ahead and try. If you like it, you'll continue, or otherwise you don't. Right? The similar thing is required in technology products, which are important to your profession. For example, how Docker and these things anyway, yeah, you do Docker and Kubernetes. For example, something like try Mesos. Just have a local installation of Mesos, or try something like an Apache OpenShift. Keep your container there and see how it runs. Right? Try many of these things. You don't have to be an expert, but you should be very, very comfortable moving around. It's like, if let's say, a bike driving very well, you don't really at any time, take a bike out and then start it and then go. You don't really plan for it, right? When that is not a separate, you don't need any plan or any preparation for it. You are always ready to start a bike anytime and then go out, provided you have a need or you like to go out or something. So the task of driving a bike is not at all in your mind. You're so used to it, right? And so trying a new product or something should come as natural as that to you. Okay, so it shouldn't have any resistance at all. Initially there will be, you keep trying it. Initially some products will take like long time and some product will take less time, but over a period of time you get comfortable. Okay, when somebody talks about a new technology or something in the market, one of the first things that you do is just have a local installation, or use a cloud account, go and try something on it. Keep yourself hands on, and something about it before somebody else speaks anything about it, right? So so this is one of the mindset I would encourage all of you to develop. And also always look at the perspective of, what is this problem, what is the problem this particular tool or this particular technology is solving, and what is the big picture. Why people are talking so much about something like credit, which appears to be just paying credit card bills? Why that's a big unicorn? What is the problem it is solving, and what is the big picture? And why Ola Electric is so popular? Right? Some of the things you can easily understand if you are already part of, if it impacts you. if it doesn't impact you, if you can't relate to it, then that doesn't sound so easy. But you will have to spend some time, browse through some of the YouTube videos, etc., or any other learning source that you like it. Go through that. Just have a brief understanding of it and be always updated. What is happening in the world. In the technology world, like many other places, you cannot be surviving alone. You need to be going along with that, along with the revolutions, along with the cloud where it is forming. Keep yourself in sync with it, and so on. This is one of the very important things that you need to do, not in DevOps, but anywhere, right? And there are so many tools and technologies. It's literally impossible for you to learn every single thing and practice it, right? So what you should be good at rather is how to get an information, how to explore the solution is something that you need to know, which you are probably already experimenting some of these things. For example, let's say instead of Swiggy and Zomato, let's say another food delivery app comes up in the market in future. You know how to install it. You know how to get like something like an OTP based validation. You need to ask for delivery, some food of delivery to you. You know how to solve that because you have used Zomato, because you have used Swiggy. That's about it. Now, a new app comes up, unless it is very different or very revolutionary, you know what it is. It's just a new app, that's it. But you know how to solve a problem using that, right? So that kind of a mindset is required in many, many technologies that you use. You don't have to know all the technologies, you don't have to really experiment everything, but when such a problem comes in, you should be able to solve it. That happens usually that you should try at least one product in that domain. Like, somebody asked Puppet, right? What is Puppet? If you know, for example, Ansible, if you don't know what Puppet is, but if you know Puppet and Ansible are similar, that is good enough, right? It's like, Python, Java, but you don't know Python. For the most part, it is okay. I mean, except that one is interpreted, one is partially interpreted, partially compiled, etc. But you know how to deal with it, right? So that kind of, where to get that information, how to get that information to solve a problem, how do I explore myself towards the solution? This is something you need to know. You can't learn all the technologies preemptively in advance. It will never work in the technology world. Right? So this is one thing. So the last one, I put it on the board because it is super important to everyone. Just make sure that you are digitally sane, you are digitally detoxed. In your generation, especially, if you are able to manage the distractions, you're 80% ahead of your competition. If you don't get attracted to the gaming, if you don't use the YouTube for anything other than what you need, and if you don't have, for example, your mobile notification turned on, and if you are able to be within the limit of use the technology for you rather than allowing the technology to use you, you can get far higher scores than other people. I can't emphasize more on that. This is like super important. An average intelligent person with an average hard work can win a lot more than an intelligent guy with a lot more hardworking but digitally distracted. None of the knowledge that none of the intelligence that will help you if you let technology spoil you. But the advantage, I mean, digital, the current world is highly distractious. But the advantage is that as long as you take care of your distractions, you're far ahead of your competition. You're far ahead of the people who are far more intelligent than you. You're far ahead of the people who are far more hardworking than you. But if you don't do this one stuff, then your intelligence, hardworking, and many of the things will not help you. That's the kind of the world that you are in. This is, I would ask, I would suggest you take this as one of the takeaway out of this call. Just make sure that you are not giving into the digital distractions. You're staying, digitally sane. That I'll go to the next slide. DevSecOps is like, in the interest of the time, probably I will not go deep into it. DevOps is recently there is a word called DevSecOps, whereas the security related things are also part of it. And I'll go to the takeaways after this, right? So one of the things that I will say as part of this is takeaway, cloud is here to stay. So there are, in the technology, there are many trends that some of the technologies will go here, come this year, and the next year it won't be there, right? And you can't bet really on learning a lot of stuff on that, and the next year it will evaporate, right? So some of the things I can, or the industry predictions and my understanding too, is that cloud is here to stay. Right? Have some basic cloud course of AWS or Azure or GCP, whatever is your choice. Containers and orchestration are here to stay. Just have some minimal, at least a minimal knowledge and some hands-on. Digital transformation, you need to enable yourself. This is what will make you give an advantage, or even for that matter, even for the survival, you need to be comfortable with the digital transformations and align with the way technology world is changing. Expect that this VUCA, the volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity they will be around. Okay. And irrespective of the domain which you are going to work, application development, networking, embedded, etc., DevOps is an important thing because it solves a problem of cost and timelines, which are important with most of these domains. Okay. So your entry level barriers is getting raised. Like I said, right? If somebody has a cloud account and a Udemy course, and if he's trying, just think of what prevents a 10th class boy not to compete with you, right? And if so the world is flat. We are all on the same plane, right? Being from a prestigious university will not give you an advantage, because some of these things, in some places, right? Not everywhere. The knowledge is so easily available. The one who uses it rightly is the one who gets the most benefit of it. So with this, I'll go again to the Q&A. Yesterday, we installed Jenkins on my machine and local installation works well. Is it possible to install Docker and install Jenkins through Docker? Possible as a container? Yes, it is possible. Okay. So in fact, you don't need to prepare a Jenkins, a Docker image for Jenkins. It's already available, on some, for example, a Linux machine and a Jenkins installation are already packed and available as a Docker image. You can just pull that image and run it on some container software that you have, be it Kubernetes or Docker Swarm or OpenShift or whatever. You don't really need to do anything, as long as you have a Kubernetes running locally. Actually, most of these images are already available. You can just pull them and run it. You don't need to have separate installations, etc. Okay. So these are all already done and then available. So you need to start from next level. Right? But for you to get there, you need to pack at least a few of your software into containers and then gain appreciation of what is the containers, etc. That's when you will be more comfortable to do that. Next question is, when you are install. Okay, I think this one I have answered, but I have not done. Yeah, the last one. when you are installing Linux during the demo, please help us installing step by step. We will also do along with you possible. I'll surely take you through step by step, but I mean, this is not a lab, so I will not expect you to do it along with me. Just stay focused on, um, what how I am demonstrating. I'll go right away there. Just stay focused, and you will understand. How quickly within 2 minutes you will be able to install a Linux server on. It's not actually called installation. Usually they call it spinning up any Linux server, and which in Amazon world it is called EC2 instance. Okay, I'll show that.
Sir, I want to add more to this
Yes,
because
please.
we are providing the recorded class of this session. Students will be able to do afterwards as well. Because one of the students asking to install along with you step by step. Maybe the same person can do once the recording is available.
Yes, yes.
I'm thankful to the student who asked this.
Definitely. Good questions. Dr. Jayesh, I need just 2 minutes break. I'll be right back.
Yes, sir. Sure, sir.
Thank you.
For all the participants, question and answers window, I think it is not visible. There are many questions which sir is addressing live. So I feel more students can also participate. The kind of quality questions that participants are asking, we are very happy and thankful to all of you. I request all the students as well, please come forward and make use of the experience that sir is having. I will one of the participants asking where can we access these recordings. I will be providing them. That is the reason I'm asking you to log into Telegram app as well. So we do have many students registered in Moodle, and many of you already registered in Canvas also. I could see many of you are active. Many of the registered participants are active in Canvas as well as Moodle. So even the third option that I'm having it as Telegram group. So through these three channels, I'm going to share all the content with you.
Madam, I'm back. You can
Okay.
go ahead and get started. Shall I start?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So I'm logging into my Amazon account. Okay. This is a free account, but I have to, of course, give my credit card here. Okay, you all can get your Amazon access, but I don't know how that credit card thing works. For is there a special access for the students, etc. But try it out. So in Amazon, there are so many services. If you in AWS, and if once you start looking at it, then you see that they have actually built a parallel universe for most of the technologies, including the infrastructure, networking, storage, and many platforms, and so many varieties within the storage, etc. They have a solution for everything, which you can quickly do that. As part of a free tier account, not all Amazon services are accessible, and not all sizes of the services are accessible. For example, I'm currently I'll launch an EC2 instance, but only some sizes of instances, only like 1 or 2 sizes of instances are freely accessible. I'll show you that, right? Check your time also. I mean, this should take generally like 2-3 minutes for us, right? Let's get started, right? I don't have any EC2 instances here, and EC2 stands for, you know, ECC, Amazon Compute Cloud, okay, but generally referred as EC2. So I go with the launcher instance. I take an Amazon Linux image of the 64-bit machine as my base image to start with, right? And at the size of it, this is a free tier eligible. I know it's named as T2 Micro, which has 1 CPU and 1 GB of RAM, right? All these details you can get to know a little later, but here, as part of the installation, I want a boot script to also run. Okay, this is called user data. When it is running, I want it to update all the packages that it has, which Amazon actually keeps it up to date, but I still want to run, you know, if any update. And I want Apache HTTP to be installed using yum install. And then I want that service to be run and enable this service for restarting every time when in the systemctl world, you understand what this is. And I'm echoing a particular string and keeping this in the default directory of HTTP. And then, you know, so this will be available as an index file, so that when I go and hit the HTTP server, this particular index file will be available in my browser. And for those of you who have already practiced at least some cloud example, this is usually some of the basic examples. So I'm keeping it here, right? This is some kind of a boot script along with the OS installation. This will have to help. So next one, add a bit of storage. The 8 GB or anything is sufficient for me. And look at, this is an SSD. Even though it is free, it is an SSD, right? Let's name something of this instance. Name is attack. I'll show you where this comes up. I'll call this, let's say, demo 1. For those of you who are already familiar with, this is like a basic demo of AWS. Who already are familiar with this, just please hold, you know, stay with us with a bit patience. Okay, most of you who have taken a cloud course in your curriculum should be familiar with this. Okay, now there is a security group. Again, the concept of security group, like, we can discuss separately, but it's basically like a firewall. By default, everything is blocked. You're not allowed to contact this EC2 instance in any way. If you want it to be accessed through either HTTP or HTTPS or through SSH, etc., you need to allow it. You need to set all the rules, you know, in a particular security group and associate that security group with this, right? For example, this is a default security group of this VPC, and then I'm allowing HTTP port 80, which is the default for a HTTP port. I'm allowing from all sources 00, which is like from any machine. I can hit the HTTP here, and I can also hit a TCP here. I can also hit HTTPS. This is not required because I don't have a certificate. This won't work anyway. I'm just allowing this. Okay, so I'm just launching here. This says that the security group default is open to the world. It is giving you a warning, but I am okay with this. Right, I need to choose a key pair. This is fine. I mean, don't bother about this right now. This will allow you to connect to that through some remote machines, etc. But for your case, you ignore it. I'm done with my configuration. Okay. So now if I go to EC2, okay. So this is not yet coming up. It may take a minute or two. Okay, so you have server coming up. it is saying it is initializing it. Okay. The demo one is the name that we have given. This is basically a tag. It's not its ID. Its ID is recognized this way, which is a random. Now look at this. It has a public IP that it is given. Okay. Now opening this public IP. Okay, by default it gets opened on the secured HTTP. So I remove that, yes, because I have not given a certificate. So without that, it won't work anyway. So complete. So nothing is coming up yet, but hang on. So because the server is still coming up, we have taken like probably 3 minutes now. Okay, this is still server is running, but its health checks are still going on. Okay, right. So it says now the server is up and its HTTPD is also up and it is serving this page which we have configured. It says hello Gitam from this particular IP. This is the private IP of that machine, whereas this is the public IP of that machine. Okay, look at the power of the cloud. We can create an EC2 instance or a Linux server in 2 to 3 minutes for free. Guys, are you able to appreciate this? Traditionally, what is that we used to do when we need a Linux system? And this is not limited to Linux system. You can create so many things. This is easy for all of us to relate to. So I'm just using this for the demo. Right? So this is easy for us to do. Now let me show you another demo. Okay. Now here, now I have a demo one running, let it run. Okay. I'll show you another demo. For example, this is an instance which has an EC2 server, sorry, a Linux OS of particular Amazon 64-bit machine, and then I have customized something on top of it, which is an Apache HTTP server, and I have some files in it, etc. Now, what I can do is, okay, I can take this as an image and I can create my own image. How this image is different from the image that I have used? I have earlier used Amazon image, right, which is a pure Linux server, and on top of it I have installed HTTPD and I have some files also in it which can be served by the HTTPD. Now I can go ahead and create an image. What it does is it now comes with the Linux server and HTTPD and some files of whatever that I have configured. All together becomes an image. Then I can use that image if I want to replicate that across many instances, which I have, for the purpose of this demo, I have already created this image. This is actually just a few minutes, okay, but I have already created that image. Now let this instance be running. I'll launch another instance. Instead of using Amazon image, I use my AMS. Right? This is the EC2 demo image. This is the same thing which I'm discussing. I have already kept it ready for ease of demo. Now select this, right? Which gives all these, the free tier stuff, etc. And it doesn't show you anything on, though it has some configuration information already there, it doesn't show here because that is part of the image definition itself. Now, on top of it, if you want to, for example, install something else, for example, you want to install a Tomcat also or something, do it here. But even if you don't do anything, Apache HTTPD server will come along with the Linux. Okay. Your sizing and storage definitions you need to give. You may take that image, but you may want a bigger machine for it, right? Instead of T2 micro, you may want to choose something else, but because it's a free tier thing, that I'm choosing only that. But I can use that image and do something else. Okay, but if you understand it, I'm using some image which has some pre-installed platforms available, right? Add tag. Here I'm calling it as demo 2, and I'm again using the same security group. Review and launch. Again, this gives me a warning that this security group is giving access to the whole world. Valid warning, but for this case I can ignore that. Right? I'm done. So this time, if you remember that my image, I have not configured anything specifically for Apache server, but I expect that to come now because that is part of my image itself. Okay, so demo one, this is old server which we have done a few minutes ago. Yeah, now the demo 2 has come, right? I haven't installed explicitly, remember, I haven't installed explicitly anything of the Apache HTTP. Now let me open this. This should be part of that image that I have already saved. Now, unless this instance comes up fully, it won't show up, but we can keep checking it. Right now, the previous one, the security checks, the status checks are actually passed now, which means that the Linux server came up, Apache D also came up some time ago. We have checked, and then there are some other checks and verifications that it is doing before it declares that the node is healthy to use. Okay, but even before that we have closed our demo. Okay, now this. Okay, now the same thing. I can't use HTTPS because I have not used any certificate. Now I will go on here. Okay, now it's saying hello world. Yeah, this image and I have saved. I haven't used hello Geetam. I put hello world. So this is coming up, right? So this is part of the image. Now let's look at another way of things, right? I was some time ago during this, I was telling you that something as infrastructure as a code, right? Okay. I'll show you how you need to now what we'll do is we'll use this code instead of manually walking through step by step this. We'll use this code and spin up a server and let's see how this goes. Okay. This name of this file is cfdemo.txt in some place. Okay, and I go for some service called CloudFormation. I don't go with EC2. Okay, through CloudFormation, I can spin up anything, an EC2 or ECS, EKS, or S3, anything I can do. Okay, I create something called stack, and it asks a template. You say, okay, I will upload this template, and I choose a file. Okay, this is the CF demo file that I am referring to. Okay, so which is in my profession AWS courses, and this is the same as. I have multiple files. I just want to make sure that the professional AWS courses. Here, right? This is the same file. So I want this file to be picked up. This is like a 6-line file, right? I can view. There is a way if you're comfortable with coding such a file, you can do that, or there is a designer using which you can do that. Right? Now I'm uploading this file. Enter the stack name. Okay, I will give this as CF demo. CF stands for Cloud Formation. You can give any name you want. Okay, so I will give this a name demo 3, but this is not for EC2, but this is for the stack itself. Okay. Now this is the review of all the configuration that we have done. Just create the stack. Now it says it is creating. Creation is in progress. Okay. It has Now it is reviewing the stuff and etc. etc. Okay. So it has instance creation, which is like AWS. You can create storage through this. You can create other platforms through this, etc. Right? It will take a minute or two, just like the EC2 instances are creating 2 minutes, right? This will also, but through this you can create 100 instances at the same time. That's all, provided your logic supports it and you don't mind parallelly creating it, you can create 100 instances at the same time through something called auto scaling groups, etc. And you can also tell them that, okay, you create 100 instances initially, but if my load, I keep calling that some APIs, if my load increases, you scale it up to 200 instance, but after that, don't scale anymore. I can't pay the bill. Okay. So those are some configuration. Yeah. So the creation is completed here. If you look at it. Now, if I go and go to the EC2 instances, I should have one more instance got created here. Right? That, yeah. So this is the demo 3, which I have given there. Yeah, this is the name is taken here also. Right? Now I go here. This is still checks are initializing, but the instance is running. EC2, when Linux server is running. Now I open this. Okay. And again, the HTTPS, it won't work because I don't have a certificate. Hello world. Right? And the image that it needs to pick up, I have given it here. Right? And I'm running in this Mumbai region, Asia Pacific, South, multiple availability zones. The one South one, and within that one availability zone. The size of the instance also I have given here. Now I have not manually configured it. I have coded everything and then let it up. And this is a simple concept of infrastructure as code. So this still checking, something, but for our demo, we have already verified it. Yeah, we have. There are many other things can be done. So for those of you who are, who have already taken some cloud courses, etc., these are like very, very basic, right? But for those of you who have not gone through some of the cloud and appreciate the power of it, etc., this will help. And I believe, like, this will help at least more than half of the folks who have joined this call. Excellent, sir. Today we are able to so simple. Okay, thank you guys. Session is amazing. Okay, thank you. Infrastructure as a code is a complete become so easy. Thank you. Okay, all right. Thank you guys. Now, these are the 3 demos I just wanted to show you to show the power of cloud. Okay, within probably around 20 minutes time, we have gone through 3 demos free of cost on the AWS side, and then we have installed the same Linux server with the Apache HTTPD. If you want, you can install Tomcat or something else, whatever you like. And in fact, you can install Kubernetes and pull a Docker image from somewhere else, and you can do that. Somebody asked a Jenkins question, right? You can do that also here. But to install Kubernetes on a Linux server, you need really rugged Linux machine, probably at least in 8 GB RAM, and something like that is not available free. But technically, if you have a paid account or something, such an experiments are very simple. And if you take like probably 1 hour to experiment it, it really won't cost much. Okay. This is like, some of them are built per minute, some, $0.001 or something, or some of them are built per hour, and so on. So you'll have to find out what is your billing setting. Now I'll come back to our presentation. That's pretty much, guys, I have, the opportunities that you have around. You are in a different, the employment scenario outdoor has changed. The business scenarios outdoor have changed. The technology things have changed. You need to be watchful of what is happening out and align yourself with the trend. And digital skills are very, very important. It is becoming common for, I mean, critical even for common people, right? Everyone needs it. Who doesn't need to a Paytm? Okay, but security part within that is like a fairly complex stuff. Who doesn't need a UPI basic power transfer? Everyone needs it, right? And additional info, what I will suggest is explore Udemy. These are the list of unicorns that are there in the world. And your story and INC42, these channels and many other channels like, Simply Learn or Edureka or something on the YouTube, they have very good material. Go and explore them. Okay, so I'm also part of a consulting organization where we do some career counseling and career consulting. So I can be reached here. This is my email. And that's about it from my side. Thanks everyone, and thanks Geetam and Dr. Jayashree. Is this Dr. Jayashree? Is it a hard ending, or if we talk another few minutes, will this session stay?
It is not like that, sir. It is like you are free to speak.
Okay. Okay. Thanks, madam.
Before that, I just want to, because some of the participants may be leaving by 12 o'clock. So
okay.
I want to read out the kind of gratitude some of the participants are expressing towards you. I'm just reading out what they wrote exactly in their sentences. One of the participants wrote, excellent, sir. Today we are able to understand AWS so simple. Till now we thought it is very big thing. Why I'm reading out is these are not visible to all the other participants. So I'm just reading out these things. And another participant mentioned, your session was amazing. You made complex topics very succinct. That is what another participant responded. Then infrastructure as code example is great. Life became so easy. Thank you, sir, for educating. They are helpful to us. Thank you for great session, sir. Thank you very much, sir. I wanted to read out this before, because I'm seeing some of the participants are leaving. So I thought it is good for everyone to know what others are expressing towards the session. Please kindly continue, sir.
Thank you so much, Dr. Jayashree, and I thank Geetam for for this such a interaction with so many students. Some of them will be technology rock stars. I wish everyone all the best, and learning continues in the technology field, no matter like how much of experience that you gain. Like I explained the digital mind in the digital mindset, just try to gain that kind of a mentality. Any number of mistakes is okay, but just keep experimenting the things and get to know, and just stay away from the digital distractions. That is the key. But if you don't achieve that single feed, then that can have a huge impact. So those two are important, and it is very nice. The one thing I'm missing as part of this being a one-sided session, because the way that the Zoom panel thing, 300 plus, of course, we cannot allow audio from the everyone, so that is also not practical. But I am missing your voices, I am missing your faces. I wish something like this has happened in an auditorium in Geetam. I would have probably met and seen all of you there. That would have been much better experience. Except that missing, I'm really glad to meet you all, and I wish you best of luck. And thanks again to Geetam, and thanks, I appreciate Geetam and their management and faculty for providing these kind of workshops to the students, so that they get the chance of exploring the world in an easy way. Thanks everyone.
Thank you, sir. As you are saying, we are also wishing that all of us can meet not virtually like this, but technology is allowing us at least to this extent.
Yes.
Hopefully the golden days will come back soon. We are also
Yes.
eagerly waiting for our students to come back to college campus.
Definitely, madam.
It is really like very, very informative session, sir. Actually, you covered both perspectives, business perspective as well as the technology perspective. That is, I am feeling that is the unique session. In that way, the session is becoming very unique. Almost throughout the session, we are receiving the questions. So on the topic that you are currently explaining. So what I feel is this itself like shows how well participants are connected with your session. That is what I'm really feeling very happy about it. And also like, though here very good number of participants are there in this session itself. However, as we are making these sessions available to everyone and to even other batches as well. So it is like you gave us permanent knowledge asset. That is what I can say from my side, sir. Thank you very much for your valuable time. Even like in general, in normal seminars or workshops, we get opportunity at least to share some kind of memento so that it becomes like a memorable thing for both of us, from university side and from speaker side. But at this point of time, just we can only have the words and we can convey our gratitude through our heart, physically not able to provide any moment or anything. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much for your
thank you.
wonderful
Yeah, thank you so much. I mean, it's my pleasure to talk to so many students, and I wish I hear their voices and see their faces, but because of the pandemic situation, that is not possible. But I wish them all the best and happy learning. Thanks, Geetam.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. I request all participants to join back at 2 o'clock. Today we are going to see how CDCI pipeline works as a demonstration. First, today I'm going to give the complete demo. Then I'm going to provide you the links, step-by-step links, which I mean, by using those, you will be able to do in a stepwise manner. Also, as a third thing, yesterday some of the students facing some problems with respect to installations. Those things also hopefully they get cleared in today's session. Thank you. I'm eager to see you all at 2 o'clock sharp. Thank you, sir.
Thanks everyone, and wish you all the best. Thank you, Geetam. Bye-bye.
I'm ending the session. Before I end the session, I kindly request all the participants to join the Telegram group as provided here. Non-Geetam participants, we have separate Telegram group, and Geetam participants, we have separate Telegram group. Accordingly, based on your category, please kindly log into that, because we are providing installation. Even if you take simple VS Code like thing, it takes little time to install. Then what to speak of Jenkins? I can understand the problem from participants as well. So considering that, we are giving 1 week of time to do the required setup and to do the tasks that are assigned to you. Like it is not, these are not big tasks. You need to install Jenkins, connect with Git and build a simple program. And also you should try today's demo, that CDCI pipeline. These are the 2 tasks that we are expecting from all participants. So to make ourselves available after the webinar as well, we are planning to have this Telegram group. Hopefully, please, I request all the active participants to get into Telegram so that we will be in touch for another 1 week till your assignment submission gets over. So please do not expect any kind of theoretical questions or anything from my side. So our assignment is to see that our CDCI pipeline is working in our systems. That is the single goal for all of us. And we are going to have the demo in today evening class. Of course, tomorrow morning, we are going to have this CDCI pipeline implementation practically, how they did in Wi-Fi domain from the resource person who is working in Candela Technologies. Thank you very much. I'm ending the session. Some of the participants are telling, what about assignment 1? That is what I am saying. Assignment 1, assignment 2. Assignment 1 is your Jenkins installation. It has to be ready, and we are going to ask you some snapshots to be submitted. So you can submit that. We are already doing that as part of yesterday's one. That is assignment 1. And assignment 2 is to do demo, build pipeline, which we are going to see today. So no big assignments from our side. If we are able to install Jenkins and have the demonstration, end-to-end demonstration on CDCI pipeline, that itself, it's an assignment. In turn, you have to submit some of the snapshots, which we are going to ask you through the medium. Hopefully, I answered that. Thank you all. I'm ending the session now. We will come back again at 2 o'clock.